Hey there, welcome back to my YouTube channel one more time. And there is one thing जो मैंने बहुत ज़्यादा notice की मेरे Instagram DMs पे भी, LinkedIn पे भी and YouTube के comments पे भी, people were asking me for the standard operating procedures that I use in my agency. Although I cannot give you the exact standard operating procedures because they are for our main program, जहाँ पे we help agency owners in getting 20 clients in the next 180 days to transform their whole client acquisition system. But a lot of you are either not ready for it yet क्योंकि it is for advanced agency owners only, या a lot of you maybe cannot afford it at the moment, and there is no issue in that. इसीलिए I have come across this problem which you were facing and इसीलिए I have created this video. इस पे मैं आप लोगों को exactly समझाऊंगा कि how you can create your own standard operating procedures and how I created mine. So with this video you will have all the knowledge on how to do it, and basically using that you can create your own instead of having to ask me for them, right? So that is it in this video. I'll be taking you to my computer screen very soon, and then you can understand how to create those SOPs. Hello everyone, today we are going to talk about anti-fragile system design. So this module explains how to build a client acquisition system from scratch and the thought process I have for building my acquisition systems. We'll be providing you with systems in the program, but it's good for you to know how we arrived at those systems. This module applies to the creation of micro-level subsystems. In case you're wondering, this is the exact process that I used to build all of my successful client acquisition systems. So going through a small recap, this is what a system operates like. So there are inputs, they go through a chain of processes, gives out the output and gives out feedback which could be used to improve the inputs and the processes, and this all happens in an environment. So that is what we just covered. After this is the macro client acquisition system, works in the market, humans are the input, stimuli chain deployed by standard operating procedures and automations are basically the processes and gives out clients as an output along with data in the form of metrics. So basically processes are chain of stimuli that are designed to elicit a micro action chain which is deployed by standard operating procedures. So in other words, a functioning client acquisition system can be boiled down to this equation: humans in niche, stimuli chain from SOPs, and clients plus metrics are the output. So this all happens in a market. Inside of a macro client acquisition system, we have a series of 6 subsystems which we already talked about. So from latent condition to attention, then from attention we get interest, from interest we get appointment, from appointment we get to show ups to prime prospects to a closed deal, which is a client, right? So this is basically the macro subsystem, and then we have these micro subsystems inside of them. Now this is basically the diagram. So like what we just talked about, latent condition to attention, attention to interest and all that. Now we are going to come to this main topic, which is subsystem building steps. So to build a macro client acquisition system, we need to create the subsystems that aggregate together to make it. To create a subsystem, I follow 7 steps. We have done a lot of heavy lifting already in the program. This just helps you think. So the step number 1 is defining the core premises. This is where we define the core premises of the subsystems that we are building. So the step 1 is define the subsystem. Decide which subsystem are you building. For example, the macro client acquisition system consists of 6 primary subsystems. System with set of processes to get attention from latent condition, to get interest from attention, to get appointments from interest, to get shows from appointments, to get primed prospects from shows, and then finally to get closed deals from primed prospect. So as you can see, latent condition, so we get attention from latent condition, and their attention now here becomes this input. So basically output becomes input, then this particular output becomes input, then this output becomes input, this output becomes input. So this is basically how this thing works. Now pick the one that you want to build and you want to focus on. Now we are going to state the desired function. So state the desired function of the subsystem and answer these questions. Exactly why are we building this? What would the result be if the system functioned properly? What problem does the system solve? And what do I want to get out of the system? Now we are going to state the inputs and outputs. Next, define the core inputs and outputs of the system. Do this by looking at which system you are building from 1 to 6 and make a note of the red input and orange output. For example, for the subsystem 3, right here, this is the third subsystem. The input is interest and the output is appointment. But interest right here was an output in the second subsystem, right? And appointment is an input in the fourth subsystem. That's one thing you need to keep in mind. Now we are going to establish the input mechanisms. Basically, this step is where we figure out where the system will get its input from and how those inputs will be managed. The inputs will always be a human, but the question is, which stage in our conversion process are the humans? You should have established this in 1.3. So right here we have established that where are we going to put the humans in. So like right here, this is the only place where we input the humans, right? Anywhere else, this becomes the input here, this becomes the input here, this becomes the input here. So basically the thing is, we are only putting the humans at the start, right? Or at one particular place is the point where we are going to input humans. Now we are going to locate an input pool. An input pool is the place from where, like, a place where we can go to find inputs for the system. For example, an email database software or a Facebook ads audience builder. Now the input pool for system 2 to 6 will be the output from the system previous to the one you're building. For example, system 3's output becomes system 4's input. So the input pool for system 4 is system 3. This is self-explanatory. The input pool for this system is going to be the output for system 3. Input pool for system 3 is going to be the output of system 2. And that's how you find input pool for these. You only need to locate the input pool externally for subsystem 1, which is latent conditions to attention. So these could be either outbound system 1. So this is the input pool. So in this case, the input pool would be the email lists, phone list, or social account list. For an inbound system, the input pool would be the social accounts that connect with you or the algorithm, right? Or your followers. For an ad system, the input pool would be the audience targeting section in the ads manager. Now we are going to build the input management system. This step revolves around creating or buying a tool that helps you manage your inputs. These are also known as CRMs. You only really need to do this for outbound and certain aspects of inbound. For example, conversion management and lead tracking. I like to use Google Sheets for this. Now I'm going to show you some examples. We are going to provide all of these, so you won't have to worry about it. But for example, this is our CRM and this right here is our engaged prospect tracker. So basically this is where we keep all the list or all the leads that we are going to send the email to. So we have all the names of the business, name of the full name of the owner, first name, last name, their email, LinkedIn, website, and all those information. So this is one way by which we keep our leads, or we store our leads, or we store our input. And same thing here for the engaged prospects, how we are going to follow up with them, what is their name, people who have engaged with us, right? So that's one thing. So basically this one is like the one I showed you, that's for cold outbound messaging. And then again for subsystem 1, where we put the people in the CRM that I just showed you. Now we are going to build the stimuli mechanisms. So the thing is, we are going to define the micro action chain. Step 3 starts by defining the micro action chain humans in the subsystem need to take to complete the conversion. List exactly what action someone needs to take in order to convert from the input state to the output state. Here is Freedom Formula's micro action chain for a macro level YouTube organic attraction system. For example, you're only doing micro systems, so this won't be that long. For example, clicking a video, then watching the video, then reading the description, clicking the link, watching the video, believing the social proof, clicking a button to schedule, selecting a time, providing qualifying information, watching interviews, showing up for the call, agreeing to the agenda, answering questions, listening to the pitch, asking questions, raising objections, listening to the rebuttals, being convinced, making a decision, clicking the link to pay, filling out card information, and pressing the button to pay. So basically like this, a random stranger who watched our video for the first time on YouTube can also turn into someone who is our paying client. Now we are going to define the stimuli chain. Next, invert this micro action chain to discover the stimuli chain you need to elicit and trigger this micro action chain, because stimuli creates an action. We already talked about it, right? Humans along with the right stimuli gives out the action. For example, for someone to click the video, we need the thumbnail and title. For someone to read the description, we need a call to action at the end of the video. Now we are going to create the stimuli and the frameworks. Next, you need to go through your stimuli chain and create the stimuli. Some useful tips here are model of the stimuli in the program and other stuff that is currently working. All stimuli effectiveness is improved when you have a really strong offer. Use your knowledge of psychology that we are going to cover very soon, or that we have covered already in previous videos, and along with some other books that you may have studied. Use randomness, take inspiration from your environment to make original stimuli. We have already talked about this. Randomness is very, very important. Now, certain stimuli will require constant recreation as they are not static. For example, YouTube thumbnails and titles. Here you need to create frameworks. You can pull these from the foundations we teach in the relevant modules. For example, two frameworks I have for YouTube thumbnails is number 1, show my face, and number 2, describe the video in 3 to 5 words. Template your stimuli and framework in Google Documents for someone else to copy and paste. Now we are going to build the feedback mechanisms. Step 4 revolves around building mechanisms to keep a log of data, track metrics, and KPIs. For example, this sheet right here, sorry, this is a sheet that we use for cold messaging appointment setters. So this right here, I've already opened it, but here we basically track how many messages were sent, how many new people engaged, how many Calendlies were engaged, and how many bookings were done on each month. And basically the positive reply rate, the Calendly sent rate, and everything is calculated automatically so that we can see a data. Now, data should be logged every single day, always on yesterday's data. You should attribute data outputs to the initial date as the input was made. What this means is that, let's say you send an email on 15th November and someone schedules a call as a result of that email on 29th November, maybe due to the follow-ups, or someone read your email later on, or something like that. You must log that appointment for 15th, not for 29th, because the input was done on 15th. So that's very, very important. We provide metric trackers for every single system in the program, so you don't need to make these yourself. Now we are going to decide the KPIs. Decide what conversion rate dictate key performance in the system. The easiest way to get an accurate KPI is to reverse engineer the metric back to a specific ROI, or energy expenditure number. How much are you willing to spend, or how much time are you willing to invest to get this conversion? Again, we are going to provide the KPIs in the program for certain systems. Now we are going to define the tracking time frame. When should data be tracked? Log it every day on yesterday's data. Now we are going to define the testing volume. Ask the following: how many inputs do you need to get an accurate measurement of the performance of the combination of your key variables and overall system performance? The more it is, the better it is, right? Now we are going to define metric variable relationship. Ask the following: which metric and conversion rate allows us to track effectiveness of the key stimuli? We already talked about it in the Darwinian theory, that certain metrics allow us to track the effectiveness of certain key stimuli because of certain conversion rate. What conversion rates are attributed to what metrics, so that you can basically check this. Now using this, we can create troubleshooting SOPs, right? So create a set of heuristics. Basically, these are decision making principles that you can use to analyze your data and make decisions for moving forward. This will help you troubleshoot your system if your metrics ever fall out of KPI, or if you ever face any problems with the certain system. The easiest way to do this is by the Loom Doctor. So with this is basically our troubleshooting SOP. If we ever run out of KPIs and certain metrics, this is basically how we can fix it. And again, this works in like the upstream way. So first we are going to check if the Polaris star, which is the appointment booking rate, if that is in the KPI. So let's say the appointment booking rate is out of KPI, then we are going to check the positive reply rate. If the positive reply rate is again out of KPI, then we are going to check the Loom view rate, and this is how we can fix it. So based on knowing which metric is connected to which conversion rate that we are getting, we can easily figure out how many of these things do we need to change, and what changes do we need, what metrics or what particular stimuli do we need to change, what is the key stimuli that we need to change, so that we get the right conversion rate for the right metrics. Now we are going to establish flow. This is a simple premise. Create a flow to better visualize the system and its components. This will allow us to see the relationship between stimuli and the SOPs. So to make a flow, start by noting all the stimuli, rules, SOPs, and tangible assets required to run the system. You can find these in your SOP hub. We are going to talk about what an SOP hub is very, very soon. You can add the flow to the SOP. Now, basically what we can do is we can create a flow like this. We have the flows for each and everything that we do. For example, even for this Terminator Loom SOP right here, we have a crash course, and then we basically have this Miro board right here which explains how the system works. So this is again the flow of this whole Terminator Loom system that we have. So it basically explains what is to be done, how is it to be done, lead sourcing on which day, loom recording on which day, main things to be done on which day. So like this is a flow for the Terminator Loom system, right? Now basically go to an online whiteboard tool. I would recommend Miro, and box out all the tangible assets included in your system. Then link them up in a linear fashion to demonstrate the flow of the system and how all the pieces fit together to make it a whole. Just like SOPs, the easiest way to explain how to create this is just to show you an example. So here is an example of our past golden follow-up system in our past gym marketing clients. So this flow contains everything our clients needed to understand how to follow up on the warm leads. It contains all the assets we used and in which order we used them. It also contains the best practices. It answers important questions about the system and important information the human running the standard operating procedure would need to successfully operate it. So I showed you this example right here, and then basically we have this example which shows what is to be done. And basically if anyone goes to this not interested, we remove them from the follow-ups, and if someone does not reply, we reuse them after 90 days. And basically if someone is engaged, we send them the Calendly link, then we follow up 8 times, and then we book the call. Or if it is a no-show, we again follow up 8 times. If they conduct the call, then that is it. So basically we have each and everything written down here about the system. Now we are going to establish the deployment method. A deployment method is a method used to deploy a stimulus or manage a task within the system that is vital to its function. Two main deployment methods are SOPs and softwares. For a system to work, task needs to run. This can be as simple as the task of sending an email, creating a thumbnail, or creating a LinkedIn connection automated campaign. Now, step number 1 would be to define the tasks. List everything that needs to be done in order for the system to function properly. Literally everything, from sending things, logging things, remembering things, doing things, etc. Label tasks as humans or machine. Look at your list and label each task as human or machine. Now we are going to organize the machine tasks. From the list, take all the machine tasks and organize them to figure out which machines or softwares will you need to run them. Now make a note of these softwares and start learning how to use them. Then we are going to create a standard operating procedures hub. So from the list, take all the tasks that need to be completed by a human and add them to a Google document. I call it System Standard Operating Procedure Hub. Format it to make it look as cool as you want. Here is the Freedom Acquisition Sales SOP, for example. So we are going to cover this in the next module very soon, but this is what it looks like. So it has all the SOPs, and this is basically the SOP hub. Same thing right here. This is our SOP hub for our Terminator Loom system. So it has all the workflows, like this is what to be done. This is a crash course for the system, and then the crash course also explains what exactly is to be done. Now we are going to create the standard operating procedures. A SOP is a standard operating procedure. It is a linear methodology for running a task. If you want to build a SOP, I recommend you build it in this order. First, the core stimuli, assets and templates, then the core spreadsheets to manage human conversions, then the core spreadsheets to manage the metrics, and then the flow of your system, then an overall daily workflow of the tasks, and a summary of all the templates and the spreadsheets needed. Here is a solid example of an SOP. It's our goal setting process for LinkedIn. Let's walk through it. So this is our LinkedIn daily SOP. So this is what it looks like. This has a video instruction, and then basically it explains everything, like initial video or initial voice note outreach. This is what is to be done, and you'll need to send the initial outreach on LinkedIn app from your phone. All other activities should be completed on the desktop. So for example, this is the video. So basically this is how you download the video, and this is how you put them in your phone so that you can easily access them every time. And then we basically set up the Calendly event setting, and then we give them the sheet where they could actually log all the data, and then we tell them how do you follow up and each and everything that we are going to do in the SOP, like that we are going to do daily in terms of LinkedIn. Now there are some more example. For example, cold TM Facebook account configuration SOP. So this is account configuration for cold DMs on Facebook. So this is what your account structure should look like. This is basically your bio. It should look like this. Then the link in your bio should look something like this. And then basically your workplace should be like growth manager at Freedom Formula. You're responsible for this, and this is how you post content, and each and everything should be clearly mentioned in the SOP. Again, for sales rep commission tracking, this is what it looks like. So basically, again, a video, and then this is when the commissions are going to be paid, and this is how do you track all the things. This is where you track them, and everything is written down clearly in the SOPs. All SOPs will be given to you as you work through the modules. SOPs take a while to build, but they save you a significant amount of time and energy in the long term. Then video explanations. Once you have created your SOPs, make a video for each one explaining it. It helps whoever is running the task better understand what is required for them. The clearer the instructions are, the better it would be. Then for step 7, we are going to recruit a team. The final step is to put a human in place for you to run the system. Warning, I would only recommend putting a human in place once you have run the systems yourself and you're certain that it works. This is because of something called the human variable. A bad human running a good system can harm results and lead you to concluding the system is bad when it actually is not. Right. So first we are going to prospect for the people, then we are going to arrange the interviews, and then we are going to decide the best candidates. Now, for example, this is our how to recruit a rockstar VA for Lumel Chemie. So again, it has each and everything that could be done. For example, creating an account on Upwork, or creating a job offer and everything, and it has each and everything written specifically that what should you outsource, what you should not outsource, and things like that. This all should be done in a standard operating procedure, and this all should be done in a very systematic way. That's it. Now you should have a clear function for the system, a pool of inputs for the system, then the stimuli required to process the inputs, sound KPIs and a feedback mechanism, tasks deployable by human or machine, a flow to visualize the system, and a human or a team to manage the system. If you have these 7 things, you have designed a client acquisition subsystem. Now, this again is the summary. Define the core premises, define the subsystem, state the desired function, and state the inputs and outputs. Then you locate the input pool. Then you build input management systems. Then you basically you build the stimuli mechanism. So you define the micro action chain, you define the stimuli chain, and you create the stimuli and frameworks. Then you build the feedback mechanism. So you build data tracking sheets, you decide the KPIs, you decide the tracking time frame, you define testing volume, you define the metric variable relationship, and you create troubleshooting heuristics. Then you establish a flow, you make the flow, and basically then you establish the deployment method. So you define the tasks, you label them as human or machines, you organize the machine tasks, you learn about this particular software that you need to know, you create a SOP hub, and you create all the SOPs. Once that is done, you recruit a team, and basically in that you basically prospect for people, you arrange interviews, and then you finally decide what is to be done. This module and the entire foundations module is geared towards helping you think. If I have taught you how to think, I have solved your problem around client acquisition forever, not just for a few months or a year. I hope you found this video helpful. As mentioned throughout, we have got you covered with all the modules that walk you through pre-built systems, templates, stimuli, SOPs, etc. So you don't need to worry about that. This is not just down to you. We have already done everything for you. All you need to do is you just need to have an understanding of how we created it, so that in future, let's say at some day, you're independent and you're not dependent on us for fixing anything, and you can do it yourself. So that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.